Minister, this year your government and your government have taken a real credibility hit. As you know, your critics, the opposition, have said that they believe you knew that the revenue figures were falling and that you and your government went into the election continuing to profess that the deficit was going to be $495 million. I know you don't necessarily agree with that, but the polls would suggest you've still taken a credibility hit. My question is, I guess, a couple of questions. Number one, can British Columbians trust the figures and the projections in this budget? And secondarily, do you think this will go some ways to improving or restoring your credibility?
Well, I think, first of all, the numbers that are in this budget are not my numbers. The numbers in this budget are numbers that have been developed by, I believe, one of the finest group of people working in a Ministry of Finance anywhere in Canada. And they are experts, they do the analysis, and they come up with these numbers. This is, I hope in British Columbia we never again see a time, as we saw in 1996, when a finance minister and a premier overrode the advice and the numbers developed by the Ministry of Finance officials. So in terms of the credibility of the 495 deficit, you know, it's as when we built the budget for February, we added in that extra level of prudence by building it around a number of a minus 0.9% for economic growth. So when we started looking at what we were achieving through our spending reduction exercise, and actually I invite anybody to go into the first quarterly report, and you will actually see the degree in those first few months of this fiscal year that we actually locked down on spending at the same time that we knew that some revenues were certainly under pressure at that period of time. So the first time that I ever had any indication from Ministry of Finance staff that our revenue projections may be taking a bigger hit than we had anticipated was actually a casual conversation that I had in the middle of the election, where the Deputy Minister indicated to me, as an aside actually, at the end of a relatively brief discussion, that our revenues may be under pressure to the tune of about $200 to $300 million from what we had previously anticipated. And knowing what I knew in terms of what we were finding in terms of cost savings in ministries, I knew that that kind of a reduction was quite doable. So it wasn't until after the election, when the ministry actually ran the formal budget projections, they actually got all of the formal inputs, and those formal revenue budget projections are only done 3 or 4 times a year, and they were done actually, it was finalized on Election Day on May 12th, so that the ministry could inform either a new government or a returning government of the financial situation. And that is actually the first time that the ministry became aware of the magnitude of the revenue declines that we could anticipate.